There's this former Republican congressman named Joe Walsh. He's really a disgusting guy, much like Steve King. Big Tea Party guy is Joe Walsh when he was in Congress. Used to have a radio show where he would say horribly inflammatory things. He is now apologizing for his role in helping to get Donald Trump elected in 2016. He wrote a New York Times op-ed yesterday where he said, quote, "In Mr. Trump, I see the worst and ugliest iteration of views I expressed for the better part of a decade. To be sure, I've had my share of controversy. On more than one occasion, I questioned Mr. Obama's truthfulness about his religion. At times, I expressed hate for my political opponents. We now see where this can lead. There's no place in our politics for personal attacks like that, and I regret making them." So, okay, I mean, this is good. Walsh is realizing how destructive and terrible Trump has been. He's realizing how destructive and terrible some of the things he did, which are similar to the personal type attacks that Donald Trump makes, how terrible those were. But he didn't just help elect Donald Trump. This guy's entire moral compass is completely backwards. He once tweeted, "If Trump loses, I'm grabbing my musket." That's not a personal attack. That's actually a threat of violence, a specific threat of violence from a prominent Republican. He said on Twitter, quote, "I'll just say it. Sandy Hook parents, your 15 minutes is up." Against, I guess, gun safety activists coming out of the Sandy Hook shooting, and who even knows what he meant by that. I could give you a really long list, but the point is, this guy wasn't just a supporter of Trump in 2016, and he regrets supporting Trump because Trump has been bad or something like that. He was supporting Trump in the most toxic and destructive way possible, while simultaneously being a completely deplorable right winger. So, okay, it's good that he changed his mind about Trump. His point, I guess, is to encourage a primary challenge against Trump. He tweeted yesterday, quote, "Why did I write this piece? Two reasons. First, I wanted to make clear that Donald Trump is unfit to be president, and he must be challenged in the Republican primary. And second, I wanted to apologize for the role I played in helping to put an unfit con man in the White House." So I've said before, it's a problem in our society when people become irredeemable. And we've actually, when we talk to former extremists, last week I interviewed former neo-Nazi Frank Mink. He said one of the things that helps get extremists out of their views is becoming redeemable, being redeemable, and being reaccepted by society when they attempt to right the wrongs and move out of their horrible extremist ideology. That lack of empathy is what often gets extremists into extreme views in the first place. And so it's really important that people don't become irredeemable to society. And I agree with that, right? I mean, we need people to be redeemable in order to encourage more people to reconsider their actions. At the same time, he's still a toxic Republican who doesn't like Trump and who was so ignorant or blinded by partisanship to a degree that I guess he didn't realize the extent of the damage that he was doing by supporting Donald Trump. Good for him. I mean, it's tough to own up to mistakes. If more people did it, we'd be better off as a society. But this doesn't change that Joe Walsh still would put elected officials in power who want terrible policy and who, if they are allowed to do what it is they want to do, would be hugely destructive in terms of the direction of the country. If it were up to Joe Walsh, we would have what? A slightly less insane, less toxic Republican as president? That's not what the left is looking for beyond the one point of agreement that Trump has to go. So let's give him credit where he deserves credit. It's tough to say I made a mistake. It's tough to do it publicly. That's great. At the same time, let's not pretend like now this guy is an ally of some kind whose political views align with ours. There's also another angle here. The idea being Republicans are simply realizing that Trump is a losing ticket. So it's not that they're abandoning Trump because they don't like Trump's style, tone, tenor, or way of doing business. They're trying to get themselves off of a sinking ship before it takes them down. So they're claiming that it's moral grounds that have them objecting to Donald Trump. But really, it's a lot of them think Trump will lose, in which case this is actually even less genuine than we believe it to be. Let me know what you think. I'm glad giving credit where credit is due. We just don't want to give more credit than what is actually due.